Jennie Gilbert, and I am the Associate Athletic Director and Senior Woman Administrator here at Miami. I'm excited to be joined today by Coach Kirin Kumar, Miami's head softball coach. Today, Coach Kumar, or as she likes to be known as Coach 2K, is going to share implements of leadership and how she implements that within her own team. Afterward, we're going to take all of your questions. Make sure you use the Ask a Question button below the video. And now that we've gotten started, Coach 2K, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be here today, and I'm really excited to talk about leadership because I find that extremely important in all aspects of what we do in life. So, one of the questions that I'm always asked is, how do you motivate your players? And to me, to start with leadership and motivation, some people think that leaders, you have to be great motivators, you have to do this. But a part of me thinks that, why is someone motivated? Why is someone motivated to be a leader? Why is someone motivated to be a student athlete? And when you can figure that out is how you can figure out what their leadership style is going to be and how to create leaders. There are some people as coaches that we want them to be leaders, but they don't necessarily want to be leaders, and that's okay. And then there are people who really want to be leaders, and they have to be led on how to be a leader. I believe it's a learned task. Some people have it naturally, but it's not something that if you don't have it, you're not going to have it. So when you find out their motivation on why they want to do something and why they want to be a leader, you can direct them in different directions. There are different ways to lead. There is leading by example. Those are the ones that are, better when they talk one-on-one, or they pull someone aside, or someone that always does what's right. There are the ones that are vocal, right? The ones that can talk. Most coaches can be leaders that way. Or how do they express themselves and get everybody else? Then there's also the leader who kind of does it by both. And those are the ones that you look for as a coach. Is not only can they be vocal, can they do examples, but you need all types of leaders to be a successful program. And that's, I think, in sports and also in industries. So the one thing that we start with our team is that you have to be self-motivated. That's number one. If you're self-motivated, then all of us can help you be a leader. If you don't have any self-motivation, how do we get you there? How do you be a leader? Okay. What we talk about is leaders who aspire to build, train, and lead high performance winning teams. And I got that from a book that I was reading. And the reason I love that is it says high performance winning teams. Okay. A lot of people, they want to just win, or they want to be successful. But what do you define that as? Each person, it's different. So high performance winning teams. And so for softball, we talk high performance. That's not just winning a game. It's doing it at a national level, not just at a conference level. High performance means that we're scoring every game, or that we have a chance to beat the Michigans and the Kentuckys. So when we talk about it, a leader who aspires to build, train, and lead high performance winning teams. Okay. So how do I instill, and how do I get them to be good leaders, or who can lead? So this past weekend, or the weekend before, we took the team on a camping trip. So we have an ex-military special ops guy who helps with team building, team bonding, and leadership skills directly. So when we took them to camping, which we found out that a lot of our girls they like to glamp. They don't actually like to camp. We made them sleep in tents. So for each event, we had a different person on the team be a leader. So the first event was the gear list. What did they have to bring? Okay. So one person was in charge of the entire team, including themselves. So how did they get the entire team to have everything that was needed? Okay. What we did not dictate how that was done. We allowed them to lead how they want to. How did they want to make sure that everybody had all the equipment? Ironically, in this leadership role, our leader had all of the equipment done. Everybody had all their clothing, had all their gear, except for her. She forgot her clothes bag at home. So you sit there and you go, okay, like she's supposed to be leading, and she forgot a clothes bag. Here's the thing that people don't understand is that no leader has all the answers and will make mistakes. So right away, the entire team got an example, okay? That not only as a leader, you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of an entire team or, company. And so for her, you have to have a humility to admit that she was wrong, own up to the mistake, and then how do you come back from it? Okay. So that's something that, she was really mad at herself, did that. Like she was so proud of herself. She got everybody ready, all the equipment, and then she forgot her clothes bag. Now, luckily in that gear list, everyone brought extra clothes. There was a reason for it. And she was good. So it's taking care of your teammates there. The next event was building their tents. So another person became a leader and she was given a task, how it was done. She got to pick how long the team got to do it, and then dictate and delegate different things. So leaders should be able to delegate. And that, as being a head coach, I have 2 assistant coaches. I can't do everything myself. That it won't happen. So it's delegating what their best qualities are, what they bring, and maximizing what their strengths are. So not only do we have to do that as coaches, but instilling it into the the young ladies to be able to do that too, because it is their team. Okay. So one thing that I've talked to a couple alumni, and how did it help, like what we do? And here's some of the things that they said helped them, not only on the softball field, but when they've graduated and now they're professionals. One wants to own a hospital, another works in Washington, D.C. So number one is teaching them what they need to know. Okay. And it's teaching them. It's not just telling them. So we teach them how they do stuff, why they do it. And so when you can do that and they're learning, they're going to be able to teach somebody else and become a leader. So that's number one. Number two was writing down that day. Like, how did they feel that day? What happened that day on the softball field? And what is it that they need to work on? And now they have it down, and writing it and figuring out, okay, like this is how I felt that day. This is what happened. And going on from that. So they can go back and look at it. Man, this day I felt great. I did a great job. Let me go back and see, okay, what made it great? Was it confidence? Was it, I just had a great day. Professor made me feel good, whatever it was. Okay. And then number three is not results based, but the progress. So when you're trying to teach someone, to be a leader or softball is that they want to go right away based on, well, I'm not hitting the ball hard, or this is it's not coming off the bat right. Well, if you're learning to hit a rise ball and drop ball, it is successful when you're first starting that if you hit a rise ball on the ground and you hit a drop ball in the air, and that's success. And so you got to take those little successes. That's progress into what you want to do. And one of the alumni says those were the 3 things that helped her feel confident to be able to lead somebody else. Those are the 3 things that she said helped bring her leadership out on the field so she can help other people, because she felt confidence that she knew what was going on, that even she can have bad days and good days because she wrote that down. And it's not just like leaders can make mistakes. And then 3 is making sure that it's not always about results. Okay. And when you do that, then you're instilling confidence in them to learn to be a leader. So going back to the camping trip, we had different events where different people were leaders. We put people in uncomfortable situations. We made it where some people, like, who aren't vocal, they were the only ones allowed to talk in a certain event. We had ones where we set standards and they are going to break the standards. And the leader for that team was the motivator and telling them, no, we can do it. Let's try it one more time. And then it became a standard in one of the events. And I have a video of it. I should have sent it. But so one aspect of leadership that we want to let them know is that everybody can be a leader. It doesn't have to just be the seniors or the most vocal or the ones that have been here the longest. It can be anybody, because we're going to teach you how to be a leader. Okay. Now, when teaching them to be leaders, we talk about 5 essential leadership qualities, and it came from a book by Brett Johnson. And the reason we instill this is that we vote for our leadership committee. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. We vote for our leadership committee. And when they vote for who they want to be their leaders, we have them think about these qualities. Okay. So leaders who train to build, leaders who aspire to build, train, and lead high performance winning teams. Effective leaders effective leaders lead successful teams that accomplish their mission, having great culture, and win. Every leader and every team will at some point fail and will have to confront that failure. No leader has all the answers and will make mistakes. For leaders, the humility to admit and own mistakes is essential to success. And then here are the 5 qualities. Responsibility, which you are, for us, your leadership committee, your responsibility is to the coaching staff. They're the in-between. Morale, that is not just by leading and cheering. It is also that when you are down, you can kind of keep an even keel. You don't get too high, don't get too low, and you're also determined not to give up. So morale. Worth ethic. It is not uncommon for a coach to play favorites, but usually that's the ones who work hard. They have the right attitude. They prove themselves. They're just always there. And that's something that's very important in a leader. A skill. Now, it's one of those where you don't have to be the best player, but you have to have a skill. And in talking in softball, it's one of those things that it can be physical on the field. It can be in the weight room that you're one of the strongest. It's just a skill. It's not a specific skill, but it's a physical skill for softball. And the last one is respect. Okay. You can have respect because you've done it. You can get respect because they look up to you because, you did something for them. But those are 5 of the essential things that we look for in a leader: responsibility, morale, work ethic, skill, and respect. And those are how we want them to vote on their leadership committee. So, another way that we create a culture that the young ladies are a leader and it's not just the coaching staff is that we have a leadership committee. Our leadership committee it has 4 people, and the team votes for that. And so they use those essential things. Now, what our leadership committee does is, because there's 4 of them, each and every single one of the young ladies on the team has someone that they can go to. Sometimes they're afraid to come to the coaches, and that's okay. They are kind of the go-between. We send them the messages to get to the team. We ask them questions like, hey, would you rather eat at Chipotle or, Qdoba? Let them do that. But they're a collective whole. So whatever they say, we assume it's the entire team. So they're the leaders of the team for the leadership committee. So one of the greatest things that we can do as a team is to teach them how to be a leader and then let them lead. They're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. So one of the hardest things also to do is to delegate, right? Everyone wants to have control in every little thing, but if you don't delegate, how are they going to learn to be a leader? And it's talking through them when they make mistakes and why. Just like the young lady who forgot her clothing at the camping trip. She was worried about everybody else. Got to take care of yourself, and then you can take care of the team. How did she respond from it? She was angry and then had to forget about it because now she had a new task with somebody else as a leader. And so that she did a fantastic job on that. And then we made her a leader on a different event. So it's giving them tasks to become a leader. And that's how I try to create a culture of leadership, that it's not just the coaches, it's not just seniors, but we teach all of them on what it is to be like to be a good leader. So, Jennie, I didn't know if there was any questions. I do have a couple other things, but wanted to.
Yeah, let's ask a couple of questions. I know I have one right here in front of me, and I'll encourage all of you that are watching, if you have a question, click that button underneath the screen and type in your question in the chat, and we'll get to you. You've mentioned that you have so many different personalities. You have some that are very quiet. You have others that are very outgoing, some that literally walk the walk. They're the example, but they may not be real comfortable outwardly talking about it. With all those different personalities, do you personally, as the coach, have to adjust your leadership style?
Absolutely. Now, that is for each person. So we did like a personality test, the Enneagrams and the disc and things like that. So we did that as a team. And the one thing I really like about the Enneagram, it lets you know like kind of how to deal with different personalities. So like I have a lot of 2s and 3s on the team. Okay. And it tells you, okay, like a 2 can be you have to when they do something wrong, you have to bring them over to you and then tell them. Where a 3, you can kind of yell outwardly to everybody. So I changed my leadership style a little bit by each person. Can I do it all the time? No. Sometimes in the moment when it comes, you got to just do what you have to do. But there are a lot of moments when you can help somebody else and change a little bit of what you do. And then is teaching them like, how do you work with others? How does a 2 and a 3 if there's conflict? So yes, you have to adjust it a little bit, but you can't do it all the time.
I appreciate hearing that, because I know sometimes that does put a strain on you as a coach. If you have to change what's really personal to you and how you're comfortable, that can be hard on you. But if you can do small things to incorporate and take care of those you lead, it does make a difference. I have a couple of questions here in the chat. So one says, in your view, what makes a good coach-player relationship or a coach-coachee relationship?
I That's something that can be, it's depending on the person, but for me, it would be that they're able to come and tell me anything and be honest. Like we were going to vote for the committee on and during the camping trip, and three of them came up to me and was like, can we be honest? Like, we don't want to give speeches. We want people to pick the leader based on what they see at the camping trip or at practice. And can we vote after we start practice? I want that. And I'd be, yeah, that's fine. You know, but if they don't tell me that, in my head, I thought it was a good idea to vote after the camping trip. So I think a good relationship between a coach and something is that they're able to come and tell us what is good for the team. Now, they also know that I could say, no, we're going to do it my way. But they have to be comfortable doing that. And if I can make them comfortable and not scared to ask a question or why we did something, then I think it's a good relationship. Good relationship is that after, they graduate, that, you're invited to their weddings, or, when something great happens and they graduate from grad school, like that's also something that instills a good relationship.
Right. We have a couple of, this is really popular. There's quite a few questions in here. So one of the other questions is, how do you coach mental toughness, or how do you lead someone through learning mental toughness?
Well, if someone has the answer to that, that's would be the $1 million question, but we do help with that. So one of the mental toughness would be our Jamie Slife, who's our ex-Marine special ops that does the team building, ship, and leadership. They had to redo the tents 3 times, right? Because it wasn't done right. So not only are they tired, it's up here because like they know how to do it, but when you get put in a pressure situation. Number 2, we have them meet a sports psychologist as a team. Okay. As a team, once a month, once every 2 weeks. That's one way to help with that. 2, we put them in uncomfortable situations, either in the weight room or at practice, or at leadership things. We put them in uncomfortable situations because when someone gets uncomfortable and they have to lead, okay, now it's up here. It has nothing to do with physical ability. And then the other thing is that we read a book. So one year it was Mind Gym. And it kind of helps them talk through things. That's one book that in the past, several people have told us they go back and reference when they're having a bad day. So there's different ways to help with it, and not one way is going to work for everybody. So we do try to do different things to maybe it clicks with this one or clicks with this one. And so we try that. We encourage them to talk to somebody if we can't help. So that's out in the open to go talk to, but we try to put them in uncomfortable situations and see if they can make it through.
Yeah, the only way you can get tougher is being put in tougher spots, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you can't just talk about it. You have to be able to do it.
You have to do it. You have to jump in. Another question says, when you are teaching something you shared, giving the why behind that teaching lesson is important. You mentioned that at the very beginning of the broadcast. Do you do the why and the explanation immediately, or do you let them think about it and go back and revisit the why later?
We revisit it later. So we'll do something and we'll tell them what is going on and they'll do it. And then sometimes you'll see someone and they're looking and you can tell that they really need to know why. So you tell them. Sometimes I ask them. I'm a coach that asks a lot of questions, and it's not because I'm trying to make them feel bad or anything. I want them to think about it. I want them to tell me. I know the answer. So most of the time, I know the answer. I want them to tell me, hey, do you know why we lead off this way? Do you know why that, you forgot your clothes? Why is that a big deal? Because I think when they think about it, then they're the ones who are going to remember it more than you just telling them. So we tell them what to do and then let them go through it. and they'll either ask why we're doing it or we ask them why. And so that's kind of how we do that in almost everything that we do on and off the field.
It sounds like lots of conversations then. It isn't being lectured at.
Nope.
It's having a conversation and learning back and forth, working with that piece.
So one of the things I've learned as a leader is if they don't understand it, if more than one person doesn't understand, then it's my fault. It's my clarity in communication, right? So it is a conversation, because I can tell them something and we're doing it, and then you ask them, hey, do you understand it? And they say yes, then I'm going to believe that they say yes, and I don't have to do any more explanation. But if they say no, then I can explain myself better, because it's my job, it's my staff's job to communicate with them in a way that they understand. And it doesn't happen all the time, because sometimes it needs to be done immediately, but sometimes it's done after practice. But there is a lot of conversation, because I want them to have the reason they're doing something, because then they're going to believe it and not just do it because I'm telling them and there's nothing behind it.
Right. And then once they say they understand, then you can hold them accountable.
Yep.
Hey, you told me, you heard what I said, and you know the why. So now why aren't we getting this done? Can always be brought up at that point. How do you value peer-to-peer leadership in comparison to coach student athlete leadership?
So I would say peer-to-peer leadership is one, and then the coach to coach to athlete is two. And I talk about this to our team all the time. It's their team. We've had our time. So we are here to help facilitate for them to have the greatest experience that they can have. But also, coaches can't be there all the time. They can't see everything, even at practice, when you have 20. And so yesterday was our first team practice, and I was seeing some of the returners help the rookies. And that's awesome. Like, that leadership right there is way more important than us doing that. Now, we're there to guide, we're there to help. But seeing that is like, that right there is doing that. Or seeing someone who, we thought was quiet, step up, and lead a team, or someone who, you thought like really didn't understand something, but then when she's explaining it to somebody else, she does understand it. So I think the peer-to-peer is number one, because they're the ones who are on the field, going to make the decisions quickly. And then coach to student athlete is number two. And we're there to kind of help them facilitate that, and help them learn how to do that.
When you get to a point with your team too, that it doesn't have to be you as the head coach policing the culture. It's literally from the inside the team outward. It makes a big difference.
Yeah. So one of the things our leadership committee does, in which it's slightly different than I think most teams, is our leadership committee is not only the in-between of us and the players, but they also have to handle some punishments. So let's say somebody is late to weights. That's something small. The person that is late has to go in front of the leadership committee. So now they're facing their own peers. They get to explain why they were late. The leadership committee gets to come up with a consequence, brings it to me, and I get to approve it or not. So now that, and I've never, knock on wood, had the same person get in trouble twice when they're facing each other. Now, if it's something major, we handle it as a coaching staff. We don't put that on them. But the little things like someone's wearing the wrong shirt or things like that, we let the leadership committee handle it, because when you're facing your own peers, you're less likely to do it again.
I like that. What about you is most unique in comparison to other college softball coaches? So if 5 student athletes from 5 different other institutions transferred into Miami, what would they all agree is unique about you? That's a loaded question.
Yeah, you can, I don't know. I mean, we got 2 transfers. You can ask them. I don't
Well,
know.
they're not here. We got to get an answer to the people who are here on the
Yeah,
webinar.
can I revisit that one? That's a great question.
Yeah.
I don't know because I don't know what makes me unique compared to everybody else. I think, yeah.
Can I share one
Yeah.
that I think makes you incredibly unique? I think you are willing to go above and beyond in order to assist your student athletes. Let me give you an example. I want the people who are watching to hear this example too. When 2K first got here, she didn't know any of the athletes. She had to get to know them. And so she spent time asking them questions like, who's your role model? Who do you look up to? What do you want to do with the rest of your life? She asked all these questions. And while they seemed like just chats, 2K actually called those role models. She called those people out, national headliner people. Give me a couple of names, Kirin, so that I don't screw them up.
Kat Osterman, Jessica Mendoza, talked to the
Jessica
entire
Mendoza.
team.
Oh my goodness. Like international people. She literally just reached out and called them personally and said, hey, will you get on a video chat with me and my team? Because these 4 athletes all said you were a person they looked up to. I would love for them to get to know you and meet you. Kirin was willing to go do all this extra work besides doing the normal stuff, learning about a team, learning the Miami process, learning about what's going on with this new job. She found a way to prove to her athletes that she was listening and that she cared. And I think that's what sets her apart from other softball coaches or other coaches in general.
Yeah, and that was a unique time, like during COVID, right? And we weren't allowed to really, even me, we weren't allowed to be around the team. They weren't allowed to come in the office, and I got the job on Zoom. I didn't even visit Miami when I got here. I had met the girls on Zoom, and so I saw this part of them. And then when we did get to meet, they had masks on, and I was so afraid that they were going to pass me by, and there's a softball player. So a little bit kind of unique, because what we could do and the way to get to know somebody was through Zoom, kind of like this avenue. And it was, I guess, easier. And my assistant coach, Morgan Zirkel, was a big part of that, because she plays professional ball and does help, knows a lot. So I think it was a coaching staff thing that kind of put it together to make them, do something different they haven't done before.
But again, you were willing to do all that extra work, you and Morgan, to let the athletes know you were listening and that you wanted to help them and that you cared about them. I just think that's an amazing piece. We'll go back and get your answer later.
Okay.
But what is the most important thing a leader can do to promote a team atmosphere? Because sometimes when you talk about being a leader, they tend to put themselves above and distanced from a team. How do you still help a leader promote team atmosphere?
So I think one of the things that is very great about our team is the culture that you can have a freshman correct a senior. And so when there is that aspect, they know that there's no class system. Just because you're a senior doesn't make you a leader. Just because you're a starter doesn't make you a leader. The aspect of it is making sure that everybody has a voice and can help. And if we see somebody getting, I guess, too big for their britches, we're going to call them out as coaches, right? Because nobody's better. Somebody who has, and I'm going to softball reference here, somebody has 70 RBIs. They can't do that on their own. People have to be on base for them to have that. A pitcher who wins 24 games can't win by themselves because we can't score on defense. Right. So it's the aspect that as a team sport, you need everybody. This game is not won by one person. And when when they understand that, then they have to understand that no one is bigger than the team, because there's one goal. We had a player last year who didn't even know she threw a perfect game because she told me she just wanted to win. And that, like that, you don't get that. And our team is very, I mean, the culture and the uniqueness of, having that one goal, and it doesn't matter who. You saw some of the pictures. One of the pictures that we see at the conference tournament, and I should have showed it to you, but like there was a play at the plate and everybody, like someone captured this picture and everybody's like this and they're all watching. And then all of a sudden everybody's joyful. Like that right there, it wasn't a single person, they were so excited as a team. And that's kind of how you have to, but if you see it, you have to stop it, right? Or if you hear like, hey, a freshman is correcting a senior and the senior is being snarky, you got to nip that in the butt, right? Or one of their teammates has to, if we don't see it. So that's kind of how we don't have leaders that are like that. And I've been fortunate enough not to run into that in 2 years. Yeah. So hopefully that doesn't happen.
Well, and as long as everybody is bought in on the team goals and where we're going, generally that team atmosphere is still there. The leadership is trying to encourage that momentum and motivate towards those goals. So you don't normally have an issue with a team atmosphere, even with strong leaders and strong leadership. So there's another question here. I know if there's any more text or any more questions that you want to throw in that chat box, do that. But I have a question. How do you keep your team motivated as their leader when they start to go through conflicts and obstacles? If they're on a losing streak, or maybe they're in a hitting slump, how do you keep your team motivated despite the obstacles?
So we're gonna go back to the progress, right? Like, what's the progress? Like our first year, Coach Zirkle and I's first year, we didn't get to play other teams, and so you don't have any idea how good you are and what you go, but you just continue doing the process. And so this past year, the past season, we won 40 games, won the MAC, and did some other things. We started the season 3-8. Like that's how we lost to some teams that we weren't supposed to. Mm-hmm. And the biggest thing for them is not to see coaches panic, right? Is to trust the process that it's going to happen. You got to continue doing it, because if you try to change everything and do that, it's going to change it's going to kind of disrupt like what you have, right? And you got to trust the process. Like if you don't, or the progress and the process, if you don't, and that's one thing we always say, you can't worry about the results all the time, because if you're doing what you're supposed to, it's going to come. Sometimes the ball doesn't bounce your way, even if you do it right. And so if somebody is in a hitting slump, they just continue to work. And we don't try to change a whole lot, because we know that process worked. It's worked for them before, right? So don't change. Now we might tweak some things. You can't always stay the same, but you got to trust the progress and the process. And like I said, we were 3-8 at the beginning of the year, and you sit there and you go, okay, we only lost 10 games all the season before. But when you continue to go and you don't get off your path, you're going to be okay. Unless the path is wrong, which I don't believe our path is wrong.
I think you're on the right path.
Yeah.
Based on your success levels, I think you're on the right spot. So we talked a lot about softball, right? And about things on the field. How do you encourage your student athletes to be leaders off the field?
So that's, I think a lot of things that we do on the field translates to off the field. So that's one thing that we talk about, is like, we're trying to teach them the way to do things, not just because of sports and athletics, right? What they do, like writing down their progress and stuff, they can do that off the field. If it's in the classroom, if it's in the, maybe they have an internship, right? I encourage them to ask questions. One of the alumni told me that, at first that she was not comfortable asking questions, but then when we got here, she started asking questions. She did not, then she got the confidence to ask a professor when she didn't understand something, and she's having an interview for a new job. Like, she's not going to be afraid to ask some things that you might want to know that some people might be afraid to ask. So we encourage them to do, with COVID, it was a little different, but we do have a community service committee that they go out and they are out in the community and they can practice some of the skills that they got. Or I also encourage them to go knock on people's door to say, hey, this is who I am. Um, it's the very beginning of the year. For the first week, we didn't allow returners into the weight room. Okay. And everyone's like, well, why? Like, well, here's the thing about the weight room. The weight room is a set time. There's somebody there. It's not crowded. It's there. And the returner's like, oh, I'm just going to call Coach Mike. I'm going to come in. And I'm like, no, I told him you're not allowed to. And they're like, what? I said, go to the rec. 1 week, you have to figure out a time to go to the rec. And two of them come to me and go, we went at 6 a.m. and it was crowded. And I said, well, so what are you going to do when you graduate? And one of the girls goes, oh, I'm going to get a 24-hour gym and go in midnight when nobody's there. And I looked at her and she goes, and I just looked at her and she goes, nope, not going to do that. So for a week, I made them figure out a time to go into the rec center where all of the students go to go work out and to figure out for 1 week, or they could choose not to do it. Right. But if you want to be a high performance winning team, then that's a choice that you want. So that's something, I know it's something small, but I did not allow them in the weight room for that first week. They had to figure out for themselves. I said, hey, someone's using a treadmill. You want to knock on them and ask, hey, how long do you have to be? Now you're getting to meet somebody new and different. So those are just, small ways to kind of help them off the field. Talking to their professors, they have to meet them, not just email them. So.
No, and I appreciate that too, because I do know your team works out. When I say works out, not like in the lifting in the weight room, I mean works out in the community, that you do a lot of community service. And so giving them the confidence to meet total strangers, spend an hour or two with those total strangers, helping them in their endeavors, it helps create that confidence in doing more, and doing more for the community, doing more as a leader within that community. So when they leave Mother Miami and the Oxford bubble, they actually can be very successful in their communities in their real life. All right. So we're going to go back to that very question we skipped. What about you is unique?
I don't know if it's unique or if it's something I think I instill for my staff to have a very good work-life balance. And people think it's kind of crazy, but we don't have to be in the office at 8 a.m. and to get our stuff done. And what is unique about me, I think, is that I also encourage our team to do it. Like, there was a concert a lot of them were kind of pushing to go to, and I'm like, you should go to it, like, go have some fun. So maybe I think that might be a little bit different, is I do encourage them to have a college life and to go experience different things. I do give them the weekend off here and there, and I treat them like adults until they, I guess, prove that they can't be, but they can. They're adults. So I think the work-life balance is, for me and my team, like, I do not waste their time. It's like yesterday we have our first team practice, which first team practice could go long, and we 2.5 hours and we got a lot done. So that might be unique, is I don't feel like you got to spend every waking hour on something to be great at it. You just have to do it at a high level when you're doing it. If it's, I made a roller coaster Lego set, that's like, I spent a little bit of time on that and got it done. So it's not spending all your time doing it. It's doing it at a high level when you are doing it.
I like that. I like that a lot. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Coach 2K. And thanks to all of you that tuned in and submitted your questions on the chat. We invite you to check out our other upcoming webinars by visiting alumlc.org/MiamiOH. Stay tuned for more webinars celebrating the 50th anniversary of Title IX, and save the date for the on-campus event, the 50th anniversary of Title IX, celebrating a legacy of love and honor, Thursday, October the 13th through the 16th. Thanks again, Coach. Have a great rest of your day. Love and honor.
Thank you.